This episode contains discussions of murder, resurrection, trauma, and vengeance. Listener discretion is advised. Vengeance doesn't rest. Not when the dead are left dishonored. Not when justice drowns in betrayal. The Red Wedding was meant to be an ending. A slaughter masked as a celebration. Robb Stark, the king in the north, cut down beside his loyal bannerman. His mother, Catelyn Stark, forced to watch the collapse of everything she held dear. Then she too was silenced. Her throat was cut. Her body thrown into the river like discarded waste. Forgotten by those who claimed victory. Mourned by the few who survived. But real death requires peace, and there was none for her. Only rage. Only the weight of betrayal pressing against the grave. What pulled itself from the river was not the Lady of Winterfell. It was something colder, something forged in grief and bound to vengeance. She does not speak. Her voice was lost with her last breath, but her silence is louder than any scream. Every hanging in her name is a sentence carried out. Every corpse swaying in the trees is a reminder of justice unanswered. This is what happens when sorrow rises from the grave, no longer weeping, but hunting. Welcome to Season 2 of Revenge and Madness. This is the case of Lady Stoneheart. "3 days after the Red Wedding, the Brotherhood without banners found her, bloated, pale, lifeless, her throat a gaping wound, her eyes frozen open. The river had not cleansed her, it had preserved her pain. They knew who she was. They had fought for the realms forgotten, but even they hesitated when they saw her. This was Catelyn Stark, noble, slain unjustly, drowned in betrayal, and Beric Dondarrion, the Lightning Lord who had died 6 times in the name of justice, made a final choice. He gave up his life so that she might breathe again. But the magic that revived her was not merciful. It was cold, unforgiving. Catelyn Stark returned, but not whole. Her voice, gone, ripped from her with the slit across her throat. Her face twisted, skin shrunken, discolored, contorted by death. Her soul fractured, too broken to weep, too furious to rest. Whatever tenderness that had once guided her heart had drowned in the trident. What rose in its place was not the Lady of Winterfell. It was something colder, sharper, purpose made flesh. What remained was singular. What remained was vengeance. Lady Stoneheart took command of the Brotherhood without banners, but the Brotherhood she inherited was not the same one that had followed Beric Dondarrion. Under her, the cause was no longer justice for the realms forgotten. It was revenge, pure and simple. She repurposed the Brotherhood into a merciless hand of judgment. Betrayers, oathbreakers, Freys, Lannisters. Anyone who had a whisper of Red Wedding blood on their hands was marked. Names were added to a mental ledger, and death was the only repayment. Trials became hollow rituals. Guilt was assumed. Mercy extinct. There were no second chances. There was only the rope, the sword, or the noose. But what truly set her apart was the silence. Her throat was too damaged to speak, but she didn't need words. Her presence alone carried weight. She judged with her eyes, eyes that had seen too much and lost too much. Her followers learned to read the tilt of her head, the clench of her jaw, the icy stillness in her stare. She became more a symbol than a leader, an avatar of retribution wrapped in flesh and fury. Survivors of her justice spoke of her as if she were a specter, a phantom of punishment. They said she moved through the Riverlands like a shadow, hanging men from trees and gutting camps at night. Entire villages would wake to find corpses swinging from branches with no sign of who passed through, except for silence. And when she was seen, her face, half rotted and stitched with death, was enough to drive some to madness. Her silence became a curse, a sentence, a promise. To some, she was a ghost of wrath. To others, a saint of retribution. And to many, a monster of grief. In life, Catelyn Stark fought to protect her family, to preserve honor, to navigate a world that too often punished the good and rewarded the cruel. But in death, as Lady Stoneheart, she became something else entirely, something focused, sharpened, and relentless. The Brotherhood without banners had been once about justice. They protected small folk, punished tyrants, and fought against corruption. But under Lady Stoneheart, that mission rotted. It wasn't about balance anymore. It was about blood. Every man hanged, every village purged, was another brick in the altar of her grief. Her followers changed. Some stayed out of loyalty, others out of fear. The camaraderie that once bonded the Brotherhood gave way to silence and dread. She didn't need faith. She didn't need friendship. She needed results. Old allies questioned her decisions. Some begged her to stop. Those who raised their voices too loudly were silenced permanently. Because in Lady Stoneheart's eyes, hesitation was betrayal, and betrayal deserved only death. The line between justice and vengeance wasn't blurred, it was obliterated, and she didn't care. But who can blame her? What does the world expect from a woman who died screaming for her son, who felt the blade against her throat while watching her legacy bleed out beside her? How do you come back from that and not burn? Lady Stoneheart didn't want peace. She wanted payment, and Westeros was overdue. Lady Stoneheart had become a legend, an echo that rode on the mist of the Riverlands. Her name was rarely spoken aloud, but everyone knew the stories. A noose left swinging in the trees, a fray caravan found butchered and branded, a campfire still warm, bodies still twitching. She wasn't a queen, or a knight, or a ruler. She was something older, wilder, a specter that answered to no throne, no laws, no gods. Small folk feared her, even as they praised her. Bandits whispered her name like a prayer. Lords dismissed her until their men started disappearing in the night. And the Brotherhood? They became a shadow of themselves, hardened, bitter, resigned to her fury. She hunted not only with steel, but with silence. Where once she had wielded words and diplomacy, Lady Stoneheart now ruled with dread. Her judgments were final, her path unchanging. There was no room for redemption, only retribution. And all the while, her children walked their own paths, unaware. Arya, the faceless killer. Sansa, the queen who learned the cost of survival. Bran, no longer a boy, no longer a Stark. They would never know what their mother had become. They would never see what vengeance had turned her into. Because by the time the world caught up with Lady Stoneheart, there was no mother left to save. Lady Stoneheart is not a villain, nor is she a savior. She is a question with no answer, a reckoning with no closure. She is the embodiment of a truth Westeros refuses to speak, that justice, when denied long enough, doesn't disappear. It mutates, it decays, and sometimes it returns wearing the face of the dead. She is the aftermath of betrayal, the consequence of a broken system that rewards cunning and punishes mercy. Her silence says what the living cannot. That honor died at the Red Wedding, and something colder rose in its place. Lady Stoneheart is what happens when mercy is buried beside the dead. She is not a tale meant to inspire, but a warning carved in flesh. She kills without trial, hangs without judgment, yet somehow we understand her. That's what makes her terrifying. Her fury is unnatural, but her pain is not. She is grief without healing, a scream with no voice, a mother stripped of everything, brought back to destroy what destroyed her. And if you look closely, she is not alone. In every town she passes through, in every broken man and burned woman she leaves behind, a new myth is born, not of the Starks, but of the storm that follows injustice. So here's the final question. Was Lady Stoneheart justice, delivered too late, or vengeance, given new breath? Her war may be silent, but its echoes are deafening. They linger in the trees, in the cold, in the stories mothers tell their children, when they speak of betrayal and what it awakens. She is no longer waiting for justice. She is what rises when justice never comes. Where does the line truly lie between justice and madness?